DefunctTV is sponsored by NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/defunctland to start browsing privately and securely online. DefunctTV is also brought to you in part by viewers like you. Thank you. In 1995, Columbia Tristar Television, a studio owned by Sony Pictures Entertainment, was attempting to diversify its content. Columbia Pictures Television and Tristar Television had recently merged into one studio, and they had found success producing shows such as Mad About You and The Nanny. A third studio owned by Sony would be folded into Columbia Tristar, Merv Griffin Enterprises, which specialized in the production of game shows such as Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. On top of this, Columbia Tristar purchased libraries of older television shows to bulk up their library. Finally, a television animation division of Sony named Adelaide Productions would produce animated shows for the company. The studio entered production on an animated Jumanji television series and a cartoon named Project Geeker. They also began to search for more ideas for animated television series. As luck would have it, a secretary of one of the Sony executives tasked with coming up with new ideas was strolling through an arts festival when she came across a series of fantastic drawings depicting variations of one fantastical creature. They were all dragons, and they were perfect. In 1977, a school teacher by the name of Ron Rodecker awoke from a quadruple bypass surgery. The potentially life-threatening operation had instilled in Ron a sense of regret. He said, quote, "If I had died right then, my epitaph would have read, 'Could have been an artist.'" Always interested in drawing, the 47-year-old felt that he had not pursued his creative passion enough. While in the hospital, he began sketching, drawing dragons, explaining that they were a beast that symbolized the forces in life too big to control. Ron made the decision to pursue his art on the side, continuing his teaching career while entering arts festivals in 1978. He continued to draw, not losing interest in the ferocious magical beasts. 7 years later in 1985, while visiting a flea market, Ron stumbled upon the book, The Encyclopedia of Legendary Creatures, which greatly helps him perfect his dragons. He would begin painting the beasts in watercolors, continuing to show them at festivals. Ron would make a series of short independent books about the creatures called Dragonland. So it went for another decade, with Ron continuing his career as an educator and pursuing his art on the side. That would all change one fateful day in 1995 while he was sitting at his booth at an arts festival, and the secretary from Sony Pictures Entertainment walked by. She was especially drawn to one image of a dragon reading a bedtime story to a young child. She loved Ron's art, asking him if he'd be willing to meet with her boss and come up with a story surrounding the dragons for a potential TV series. Of course, Ron jumped on the opportunity, using the simple plots of his Dragonland books to write the pitch. He met with the Sony executive, Jim Cohen, explaining that his stories could be a way to, quote, "teach children to meet new situations with confidence." In Ron's mind, dragons could be viewed as either ferocious enemies or powerful allies depending on the viewer, and a simplified take on this for children, in which dragons could help them learn lessons and approach situations, would make for a great television show. Ron said, quote, "Dragons are with us in one form or another, but we have the choice with how we live with them. They can engender fear and hopelessness, or challenge growth and risk. I choose to view and portray them as the latter." Cohen was impressed, but he told Ron that the chances were slim to none that the show would ever come of his idea. This was just the nature of the television industry, and on top of this, Sony didn't specialize in producing content for children's television, making greenlighting the show even more challenging. Cohen told Ron that he would try his best, and the two parted ways. Fate, clearly being on the side of the kind schoolteacher, would bring the Sony executive, completely coincidentally, into the same room as a representative from the Children's Television Workshop. The chance encounter was spent by Cohen explaining Ron's idea, and asking if CTW, the creators of Sesame Street and the biggest name in children's television, would be willing to co-produce the show with Columbia Tristar Television Distribution. The representative loved the Dragonland idea, and after developing the pitch further, Columbia Tristar and CTW entered an agreement to produce an animated show together named Dragon Tales, with Ron coming on as a series creator and producer. The two companies sought funding from the Public Broadcasting Corporation, with television star and producer Wesley Ure writing the show's treatment, along with a companion series, Show and Tell Me, which would never come to fruition. On January 9, 1996, it was announced that the new series Dragon Tales was granted $4.2 million for a 40-episode first season. This was part of an $8.4 million grant payout, with the other half of the sum going to the development of a reading comprehension show named Between the Lions. Dragon Tales would also be produced for Canada's public television station, CBC. Ron helped create the designs for each dragon character in the show. The result was not the same as his art, with the main difference being the character's scale and the character's scales. He explained that the dragon's design, shape, and feel for the show were inspired by his golden retrievers, as they provided a lovable and child-friendly source. Korean animation studio Urim Productions was hired to animate the show. The show's thesis was, quote, "What Sesame Street is for academic readiness, Dragon Tales will be for emotional readiness." And the show's target demographic were children between the ages of 2 and 7. The studios went to work creating the first 40 episodes of the show, and on September 6, 1999, nearly 4 years after receiving its initial funding, Dragon Tales premiered on PBS.
Emmy wished on a dragon scale, and that's what started Dragon Tales. They climbed on the backs of their dragon friends. Now the adventures never end. Let's all go to Dragonland.
In the first season of Dragon Tales, each 25-minute episode of the show was split into 2 12-minute parts, each containing an isolated story. The first story of the show's first episode was titled To Fly with Dragons. It started with the show's main characters, siblings Emmy and Max, voiced by Andrea Libman and Danny McKinnon respectively, moving into their new house. Emmy is excited about the move, but Max is hesitant. He cheers up as they enter their brand new playroom, with dragon wallpaper, just like in Emmy's dragon book. The two find a secret drawer containing a box with dragons on it. They open up the box to find an authentic dragon scale. Emmy reads a rhyme to say while holding the object.
I wish with all my heart to fly with dragons in a land apart.
Suddenly, the dragons on the walls come to life, spiraling around Emmy and Max as they are transported to the magical world of Dragonland. Here, they meet Ord, an easily frightened blue dragon voiced by Ty Olsson, and Cassie, a shy and kind pink dragon voiced by Chantal Strand.
I'm Cassie, and this is my friend Ord.
Hi.
The four introduce themselves, and Ord makes everyone dragon corn by throwing kernels in the air and using his fire breath to cook them. Ord explains that he and Cassie are looking for his lost tooth, and they are going to ask their friends Zach and Wheezy if they've seen it. They offer to fly Max and Emmy around on their backs, and the four go to meet Zach and Wheezy, who are conjoined twin dragons voiced by Jason Mikas and Kathleen Burr respectively.
Zach, Wheezy, did I leave my tooth in your room?
I don't know.
Let's go look.
Zach is very clean and straight-laced, while Wheezy is messy and spontaneous. The six then visit Quetzal, voiced by Eli Gabai, the dragon's teacher at the school in the sky.
Hola, niños.
You speak Spanish?
Sí, I came from Mexico.
While Ord, Cassie, Zach, and Wheezy are all childlike, Quetzal is more mature and wise, telling the six a story of how the dragon scales work. Max realizes he found Ord's tooth, and Ord uses it to wish that Max and Emmy could come play at any time. Quetzal gives Ord a dragon scale of his own, that he can use to communicate with Max and Emmy that he wants them to come play. Quetzal then teaches Max and Emmy another rhyme to get home. Once there, Max and Emmy's parents, yelling from off-screen, ask them how they liked the new house. They both reply that they love it. Each story after this would have a similar format. The kids would start in the playroom, both discussing what they plan to do when they get to Dragonland. They then wish on the scale and are transported back with their friends. All of the stories tried to teach lessons regarding social situations, with topics such as problem solving, trying new things, and compromise being explored. The producers felt that it was important that the show not pretend to give simple solutions to all of these problems, but to instead show ways to make the situations more manageable. The progress was visualized through the dragon badges worn by the characters. Ord's dragon badge would glow when he faced his fears, Cassie's dragon badge would glow when she felt confident, and Zach and Wheezy's dragon badge would glow when they compromised or worked as a team. Each episode would feature an original song as well.
The moon comes out as the sun goes down. You may start to worry as your heart beats like a drum. So you should hum, let me hear you hum.
More dragons would be introduced throughout the show's run, some appearing more than once. New episodes of Dragon Tales would premiere daily, with 20 episodes being released from September 6th to October 22nd. 10 more episodes would air in January of 2000. The remaining 10 would air in April. Dragon Tales was an immediate hit, and the show would be renewed for a second season of 25 episodes. The main difference between Season 1 and Season 2 was the transition from cell animation, in which frames are composited on layers of transparent plastic cells, to digital ink and paint animation, in which the compositing and coloring are done digitally. This resulted in a subtle change, but when compared, the second season's animation has a noticeably cleaner and more vibrant look. The show would also bring along a line of merchandise, including a Game Boy Color game released in December of 2000, books based on the series, musical albums, and a variety of toys.
Which baby dragons will they find inside?
That's a surprise.
The second season of Dragon Tales premiered on June 4th, 2001. The first 10 episodes would premiere throughout June. In the 6th episode of the second season, a new dragon student at School in the Sky was introduced, Lorca, a pink dragon with a disability. The creators made sure that Lorca's disability was not the focus of her character, and in most episodes that she appeared, her disability was irrelevant to the plot. Season 2 of Dragon Tales would continue airing in September of 2001, airing the season's 20th episode on September 14th, 2001. The remaining 5 episodes wouldn't air until the next year, picking up the exact same week in September that the show was most likely supposed to air in 2001. The year-long hiatus before the final episodes of the season could have possibly been due to the terrorist attacks of September 11th, which occurred the week that Dragon Tales went on hiatus. After the tragedy, many networks pulled programming either due to content concerns or scheduling changes. While the Dragon Tales episodes certainly did not have any imagery relating to the attacks, PBS stations around the country drastically changed their programming schedules, some running news programming nonstop, while others chose to air PBS Kids shows throughout the day, as they scrambled to find consistent programming after the events. It is possible that during this time, it was decided to delay the new Dragon Tales episodes, although this has never been confirmed, and the hiatus could have been coincidental. The final episode of Dragon Tales' second season premiered on October 15, 2002. Earlier that year, a musical stage show named Dragon Tales Live began touring the United States. The show featured the main cast, with Ord, Cassie, Zack, and Wheezy appearing in full-body costume form, and real children being cast as Emmy and Max. On March 2, 2003, a musical compilation special named Let's Start a Band aired. This mixed in live-action footage with animation and musical numbers from the show. After this, Dragon Tales went on another hiatus, with no new episodes being produced. While reruns aired regularly on PBS, it wouldn't be for another year that fans of the show would finally hear of its status. In August of 2004, news broke that a third season of Dragon Tales would be created, to premiere in 2005. Along with this, it was announced that a new character, the Colombian-born Enrique, a bilingual 6-year-old, would move in next door to Max and Emmy and follow them on their adventures in Dragonland. This, along with Quetzal having an increased presence in the plots, was an effort to focus the show more on Hispanic culture.
Hi! Hiya, Enrique!
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Great! How's it going?
Bien, okay, I guess.
The third season of Dragon Tales would air from February 21, 2005 to April 1, 2005, with 29 new episodes being created, although many of these episodes contain stories from previous seasons. 32 of the 58 stories in Season 3 were repeats, with only 26 new stories being produced. This brought the total episode count up to 94. Dragon Tales would not be renewed for a fourth season. With over 90 episodes to air in reruns, PBS could air the show for years to come. The final story in the show's final episode was titled A Storybook Ending. Max, Emmy, Enrique, and the dragons listen to one of Quetzal's stories, and everyone is transported inside of it. Quetzal tells them to go find a very special book from the wizard sage. After obtaining the special book, containing all of the stories in Dragonland, the three transport back home. Emmy suggests that they write a book of their own about all of their adventures in Dragonland. But what should they call it?
How about a bunch of cool stuff that happened in the land of dragons and fairies and giants and gnomes and unicorns and more? That might be too long to fit on the cover. How about Dragon Tales?
Dragon Tales Live will continue performing until the spring of 2006. A rather irrelevant but interesting Dragon Tales appearance was in the 2006 Adam Sandler comedy Click. Sony, known for their egregious cross-promotion between products, outdid themselves by showing Dragon Tales, a show that they produced, on a Sony television, a product that they manufactured, in Click, a film that they made. Reruns of Dragon Tales would continue airing on PBS until late 2010, ending Dragon Tales' 11-year run. Dragon Tales was an incredibly successful show for PBS, being nominated for 3 Daytime Emmys and becoming PBS's #1 preschool program within its first year on the air. The show helped children tackle difficult social situations in a realistic and entertaining way. The show also introduced many children to some of the differences and similarities between Hispanic culture and their own, in a natural and positive fashion. The approach the show had to its conflicts alone was unique and effective, providing its audiences with tools rather than answers. Dragon Tales had a positive impact on a generation of children developing social skills, and the show's colorful setting encouraged children to use their imaginations and take their own trip to Dragonland. After the show ended, Ron returned to touring arts festivals with his dragon paintings. He was constantly recognized for his work on the show, and the dragons in his art caught the attention of many passers-by. Despite this, he still sold his art for a small price, enjoying seeing people appreciate his dragons. Dragon Tales had both humble beginnings and humble endings, and Ron remembers his time on the show fondly, reminiscing with the children visiting his booth, who were mesmerized at the dragons with which they grew up. Ron's art had a deep emotional impact, possibly illustrated best when a friend of his was nearing the end of his life. On his deathbed, his friend held one of Ron's art pieces, a picture of a dragon holding a child's hand, walking into a sunny valley. Before he passed, he told Ron, quote, "I am fading into that picture." He wasn't the only one. This video is sponsored by NordVPN. NordVPN is one of the most trusted privacy and security service providers in the world, and their easy-to-use apps mean you're only a few clicks away from privacy and security online. And for a limited time, get 75% off a 3-year plan at nordvpn.com/defunctland. This special offer makes your subscription just $2.99 per month, so you can browse securely on all of your devices. And for a short time, use the code Defunctland to get an extra month of Nord for free. Just go to nordvpn.com/defunctland with your parents' permission.